Hey squad, welcome back. Now I'm excited today because I'm back in the studio and I'm releasing music, and the track playing at the top of the video is my new release, Here We Go Again, and it's available on all streaming platforms. I've got links in the description and I'd really appreciate you supporting me by checking it out. Now my mission in today's video is to show you exactly how I mix this track using Logic Pro and Waves plugins. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so let's dive in. Now, as you can see, I always try to color code my regions so they're easily recognizable. All of my drums are up here in this color. Next, I've got my bassline recordings. Then I've got some guitars along here. Then these are all keys. Then I've got a horn section down here, and then some effects, some transition effects and that sort of thing. For a track like this, I generally like to start off with my drums, and I always group my drums to a bus, and on that bus I've got a couple of plugins. So let's just solo the drums as they are for now. Okay, so I've got my main drum groove here, and I'm controlling the dynamics with Ozone 9. I love to do a combination of some of the isotope plugins along with Waves. I just wanted to control some of the dynamics of this drum groove, and I just employed this plugin right here. But all of my drums are actually going through to bus 10. The shaker is actually going straight to the master bus, and there's nothing on the master bus right here. Now on the drum bus, I've got the Tony Maserati GRP, which I'm really enjoying using at the moment. It's giving the sort of color and tone to my mixes and to my sections, my buses. I'm getting a darker, more analog tone from this plugin. So let me bypass. So besides the fact that it's actually increasing the gain, it's also adding a color and gluing together these separate parts just the way I like it. I'm not driving it too hard. You can see the meter just about moving. I haven't got the sensitivity too high. If I was really driving this, you see this light flashing on and off. For now, I just want subtle control and color, and that's why I'm using this particular plugin. Definitely check this one out. I'll have a link in the description if you want to have a play with this one. And the other thing I've got going on with the drums is I'm using the good old Nick Romero Kickstart plugin. Have a listen to this bypassed and switched in. You see, we're creating a subtle gating effect using this plugin, which in effect creates space within the mix. It's very subtle, but it definitely makes a difference. Okay, so that's it for the drums. Let's move on to the other parts. So next up is my bass line, and I'm very, very particular about what I do with my basses, being a bass player, of course. Now, on the channel strip, I've started off with a Logic electric bass preset, the Substation. Then I've just added one of my favorite Waves plugins, which is the CLA Bass. I've done videos on this before. Definitely check this one out. I've got a link in the description to download this one. If you're interested in electric bass, or if you're just looking for a plugin that will give you some great results in terms of controlling your bass instruments, this is the one I definitely recommend. Anyway, after the CLA bass, we've got this Logic sub bass, and this definitely does make a difference. Let's listen to the bass and drums with both of these plugins bypassed, and then bring them in, and you can hear the effect that they're adding to the tone of this bass. Okay, so the CLA Bass adds a bit more growl, a bit more cut to the bass guitar tone, and then this sub bass plugin smooths things out a little bit and blends this bass line in with what's going on with the drums. So a very effective combination of Logic plugins and the Waves CLA Bass plugin. Next up, we've got these picked guitar tracks. First off, I've got a muted electric bass plucked section. I've got this muted guitar section, that's the electric guitar section, and then just a little guitar riff. Listen to them individually as I bring them in, and then I'll quickly go through and show you what I'm using on each channel strip. Okay, I'm using a stereo delay on the muted electric picked section, as well as on this guitar riff down here. And on the picked section, I'm using Logic Tremolo plugin to give me a kind of auto panning effect. And I've got this vibe plugin on the pedal board and some chorus just to sort of warm things up a bit. And I've got a tape delay as well on the muted guitar. So let's hear these together with the drums and the bass. Okay, sounding pretty good. So next we'll move on to the keys. Once again, I'm very particular with what I do with my keyboard parts. And just to show you what's possible with Logic's native stock keyboard plugins, I'm using Logic's electric piano here for my main keys. I'm also using it here for this intro section. I'm using it here again for this these chopped keys, and down here I'm using Alchemy. All of this comes as part of Logic. So let me just play back this section, then we'll quickly go through and I'll show you how I'm processing these keys. Now on the main keys, I haven't really got anything going on here, but all of the keys are being bussed through to bus 5, where I've got some plugins, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. Now with this intro section, I've got a sample delay going on here. I've done a previous video on delays. I'm going to put a link in the description. You may well want to check that out. Anyway, the chopped keys again, we've got a sample delay, and down here with this pad section on Alchemy, it's just straight through. But like I said, I've got these keys all going through to bus 5, and on bus 5, I'm using one of my absolute favorite plugins from Waves, which is the Aphex Vintage Exciter, and this just adds some fairy dust to my keys. And the other thing I'm using on this bus, just to give the extra life and character to my keys, is this Waves plugin, the JJP Strings-Keys plugin. And I'm using a bright piano preset, and I've made some adjustments to fit the tone and color that I'm looking for. So let's listen to all of these sections so far and hear how they're blending together. So the next thing we'll do is look at these final bits down here, and then we'll look at what I'm going to do on the master bus, because I'm going to add all of my mastering plugins to the master bus to show you how to transform this mix into something really special. Hey squad, just reminding you that if you're interested in a personalized online one-to-one tuition session or a consultation, just head over to my website, musictechtraining.com, and complete the contact form with your details and your requirements, and I'll be happy to get right back to you. Okay, let's crack on with the video. Okay, so another important instrument in this production is my French horn section. I'm going to play that back to you. I'm going to have the bass line on and the shaker on, just to give you some context of the rhythm. So let me play that back. Now the actual sound is part of Logic's stock software instrument plugins: Legacy, Logic, Orchestral, Brass, French horn section. I really love this sound. Now the plugins on here, we've got an EQ, and there's a big boost here on the high shelf area. There's a space designer, there's a fair bit of reverb as well on this one, and I'm using Logic's stereo spreader plugin to give a bit of stereo width. And just quickly, let me play back some of these transition effects. Okay, and now all of these sounds are benefiting from Logic's stereo delay plugin with some reverb. Here we got stereo delay, and this is going through to bus 6 where there's a reverb. Let's come down here. We've got a reverb again down here. A lot of this bottom end has been scooped out for this particular sound. And here we've got the Fat Effects stereo delay, and of course one of my favorites, Logic's spreader plugin. And down here, let's see what we've got. Again, stereo delay. In fact, let me give you an A/B of this sound with and without the stereo delay. Let's play that back. And now with the stereo delay switched in. These subtleties add the flavor to the overall mix. So finally, let me quickly show you what I've got on my master bus here. I'm using a combination of Waves and Isotope plugins to actually finish this thing off. Right here, I've got the Waves J37 virtual tape machine, and I've got another instance of the Waves Aphex Vintage Exciter. These two plugins are going to give me that saturation and the tone and color that I'm looking for of a more analog sounding track. And then I'm going through my final stage, which is Ozone. I'm doing some more vintage tape processing. My EQ is not doing that much, a little bump down here in the bottom end. I've got a subtle bit of stereo imaging, and then I've got a vintage limiter right here, and then my maximizer. You can see right down here, my target threshold is -9 LUFS. This is normally -14, but I generally go for a higher number because that lifts my tracks up even more in terms of overall volume. And this is my whirlwind run through of how I mix a track. I'm going to play out in a minute with this, but as always, if I'm bringing you value, do remember to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel, and support me by listening to the song using the links below. That will really help me out. Also, I'll have links to all of these Waves plugins which you can download and use for free for up to 7 days, and then you can figure out whether or not these are going to add anything to your overall productions. Finally, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again real soon. I'm Deuce, I'm out. Peace.